All right. Most employers today would agree that a person's appearance is nowhere near as important as his or her professional skills. So are tattoos no longer the kiss of death in the workplace? Well, UT Human Resources Director Cory Fish is here to tell us. Is it?
Well, you know, like so many questions, the answer really is just going to be, it depends. And it depends on where you work. It depends on, as the article said, most blue-collar jobs, you know, that's gone away. There's no longer a taboo under the blue collar. But under the white collar, is it still taboo? Interestingly enough, so they say 14% of Americans have tattoos. That's the population. So that's 86% that don't, obviously. And while the prevalence of tattoos it's getting bigger and bigger every year, there's still that first impression that you want to make when you go in with an employer, and you just never know at this time.
Well, they can cover it up.
Yeah, they can cover it up. So I mean, that's one of the things as a recruiter, that's what I would suggest. Before you don't know what's going on, you don't know who your boss may or may not like tattoos or not. So cover that stuff up. There's certain professions where it's got to be covered up. The article states, the article states pretty much all the medical professions, doctors, nurses, all of those have to be covered up because there's a level of professionalism that they expect to have in the hospitals. But those are the ones, the more interesting ones were Bank of America spoke on it and said they no longer have a policy for their tellers. Their statement was very PC, so I'm going to read it. There's no formal policy about tattoos because they value the differences and recognize diversity and inclusion are good for business. I mean, that's great. It sounds really nice, right? But when you're being interviewed, it's just natural for someone to look at a tattoo or look at your appearance and judge. And so, especially with the levels of unemployment right now, where there's so many qualified people applying for the same jobs, do you really want to be in a position where you might offend somebody?
Not only that, tattoos become a focal point.
Absolutely.
And it's a distraction, whether it's pretty or not pretty, it doesn't matter. It's a focal point. It's taking away from what you have to offer as a person, your mind, your speech. Agreed.
And some people on the tattooed side of the argument, I got some friends with really elaborate tattoos on their arms and whatnot, and they see it the other way. They don't want to work for somebody who can't see the tattoo, recognize its artistic beauties, if you will, and if someone's going to judge them for that, then they don't want to work there.
But my point was, it doesn't matter, doesn't matter what your body looks like or anything else. You want them to focus, not be distracted on what you have to say during the interview process. Get hired for the job, and then, hey, this is who I am, and that shouldn't matter. You know, just like it shouldn't matter if I have kids or not. But I'm not going to go tell, you know, when I was before I was here, or in my earlier days, that I was a single mom, because I right away thought they would discriminate against me because, okay, then I'm high risk, then I'll need.
Well, and it shouldn't matter. You're right. It shouldn't matter. But the art of interviewing and hiring someone is still at its core subjective. There's a lot of HR people who will say, I know whether I'm going to hire you before we ever sit down to the desk. Just from the reception area to the desk, I know right there.
Why? Just gut feeling, intuition?
Gut feeling, intuition, what they're wearing. Are they dressed professional enough? Do they look the right part? Do they look like someone who can fit? But again, at its core, it is subjective on things that I like, especially, like I said, with so many people out there looking for jobs right now, and so many qualified candidates coming in. Why do something that might set you apart in a negative fashion?
Right. And that's just getting in the door. And then you can show them the other cards you have, you know, reveal the other cards.
Sure. Once you get in, they've hired you, they've liked you, maybe you've had a couple weeks to show why you're kicking butt on the job, and then you could go in and roll your sleeves up a little bit.
And it doesn't matter. If you hit it out of the ballpark and you do your job really well, they won't, I would say 9 out of 10 times they wouldn't care. They want somebody who can perform. They want a talent.
Absolutely. The person that they highlighted in the article, his name is Bruce Potts. He's a professor at University of New Mexico. Of all things, he's a public speaking professor. He's got full tribal tattoos all over his face. All over his face. So obviously they were able to...
Dude, I wish we could pull a picture up. Let's see if we can find him on the net. I don't know if we can. What's his name again?
Bruce Potts. Professor, University of New Mexico.
Bruce Potts. Yeah. Just Google. Just try. You might not be able to do it.
Public speaking professor. But obviously he got past that, so that's good.
We're going to show you another guy. Okay, keep talking about him.
Another guy?
Well, look, he's a doctor, but he covers up the tattoos.
Right, so that looks good. You know, you can't tell between what's...
He's so funny. I mean, he wouldn't know when he took the jacket off.
You wouldn't even know. So, you know what, there it is. Wear stuff that would cover up the tattoos until you're in a more comfortable situation.
So go back to that professor. Tell me about him. So he has full tribal tattoos on his face.
Well, it's interesting, and everyone in the article that they highlighted was talking about, look, if we didn't hire that person, we would have lost a great professor. Or early in the article, they talk about someone for another company out there, and I'm looking on my notes, I don't find it. They would have missed a great employee if they took the tattoos to heart. So it really, again, it depends on the company you're working for. Some of the companies, they're new, they're culturally hip, and they want to have that kind of vibe, so it's more okay. Some not so much. But keep in mind, a lot of people that are doing the hiring are still of an older generation because they've worked their way to the top, and they maybe don't feel the tattoos are most appropriate in the workplace.
And tattoos are subjective, right?
Very subjective.
So just play it safe, folks.
That's right.
High unemployment rate these days. Play it safe, get the job.
Cover them up. Cover
and
them
then show them what you get.
That's right.
In more ways than one.
Yes, yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I think the interesting thing, one of the interesting points on the article was just as recently as 2011, there was a study that showed 31% of employers still said they'd have a negative bias towards somebody who had a visible tattoo during the interview. So while the amount of people that are getting tattoos is increasing, there's still a high level of employers who say, no, that's really going to put a damper on the interview.
I see that, though. Yeah. I can see that.
So everything's subjective. Everything you do during that interview is going to be looked upon and critiqued, and like you said, don't present the negatives, present more positives.
That's right. Yeah. You don't even want their brain to go that direction.
That's right, that's right.
Just focus on hiring you. Eye contact, smile, be passionate.
That's right.
Be smart.
That's right. All positives. Keeps everything on the positive.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Excellent.
Great advice. Always news you can use. Thank you so much, Cory.